Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll begin with chapter 45, verse 10. Chapter 45, verse 10. Yosef has revealed himself to the brothers, and he says, go back to my father and tell him that I sent the message to come to me. Verse 10, V'yoshav tov eretz Goshen. You'll live in the land of Goshen. V'yisa karov elai. And you'll be near me. Ata, uvanecha, uvnei vanecha. You, your children, your grandchildren, vitzonchav karchav, chalashalach, and all of your livestock, just come. The whole family will come to the land of Goshen, and you'll relocate there. So Yosef is sending this extremely warm and welcoming message to his father Yaakov. It's a little bit perplexing why he would say to him, I don't know, when my parents were discussing moving to Silver Spring, I said, that would be great if you came. I didn't say, you're welcome to come. You could go live in Potomac. It'll be very nice. I didn't say that to them. They're certainly welcome to come to Ketville. We're very glad they're in Ketville. So why did Yosef say, you'll come and you'll live out there in Eretz Goshen? Like, it'd be really great to have you. Just stay like far away within the scope of it. That's what it sounds like he's saying to his father. What's going on here? So if you look at the Ramban on Pasuk Yud, V'yashav tov Eretz Goshen, Yosef Yodea ba'aviv shlo yirtza lamod be'ir Mitzrayim asher sham habira lamalchus. Yosef intuited that his father would not want to be in the thick of things in Egypt. He would not want to be near the capital city, for example. Cain shalach lo me'ata. Therefore, he preempts that, and he says, "Ki be'eretz Goshen yoshivenu." That you should know what's going to happen is you're not going to live near Capitol Hill. You'll don't worry. You'll go in Goshen. So that's just an interesting, just a practical shot for what Yosef is saying to Yaakov. Okay, Yosef continues. He says, tell our father that I'll take care of the family. It'll all be fine. And now, verse 12. V'hinei einechem roos, and behold, your eyes see. Ve'enei achi Binyamin, and the eyes of my brother Binyamin also see. Kifi hamdaber alechem, the mouth speaking to you. That my mouth is speaking to you. You see the mouth speaking to you. It's a little bit of a strange phrase. What is he saying? This seems to be some kind of confirmation that everything I've told you is true, because you see the mouth. It's just difficult to understand what's just the simple meaning of this phrase. If you look at the Ramban on Pasuk Yud Beis, Kifi am daber alechem, Bilshon HaKodesh, Beli Melitz. So the first pshat he brings down is what Rashi brings down as well. I'm talking to you in Hebrew right now. There's no translator. So doesn't this tell you something? And it's, how do I know Hebrew so well? You know how I know Hebrew so well? Because I'm your brother. So if you had any qualms that I am who I say I am, just think about the language that I'm speaking to you right now. This is the common approach among many, including the Unclus. It's possible that he was saying this to them as some manner of mollification. Husfas Knan, ki Avram lo hevio so mi urkastim o mecharon, ki aram is he, va'agala ze'ed, ve'enenu lashon l'ish echad levado. So the Ramban says it's difficult to understand what Yosef is saying anyway, because is it so unfathomable that a person in that region of the world would be able to speak Hebrew? This was a language in the region. Is it so shocking that this person, this mystery man, is able to speak Hebrew? Says the Ramban, Aval Husfas Canaan. This was the language of the land of Canaan. V'rabim b'Mitzrayim yodim oso. And many people in Egypt would know that language. Karnofu, because it's geographically close by. It's not unheard of for a person in a national position of leadership to know other languages. Nebuchadnezzar is this whole thing that he was able to speak different languages. Furthermore, I'm skipping about 5 lines. Va'od, ki kasher ba Yosef misham leMitzrayim, yavo rabim. What do you think? You think Yosef was the only person in the history of the world who went from Israel to Egypt? So there's probably other transplants, for one reason or another, from Israel who are living in Egypt, and that's also their language. The Ramban says this is so boggling. Yosef's proving that it's him because he knows Hebrew. A lot of people in Egypt probably know Hebrew right now. You know, it's a pretty good proof that it's him, that he knew his name. You know, it's not like they're walking around, we're looking for Yosef. He knows the name of the lost brother. And he says, by the way, I remember that time where you sold me to Egypt. How many people in the world know that story? There's far few people in the world who know the name of the lost brother and the story of what happened to him than people in Egypt who speak Hebrew. So what's he talking about? But the Ramban says, I think the pshat is Kiyomar v'nei einechem v'nei achi Binyamin ro'os ki ani hamoshel v'ha'adon l'chom Mitzrayim. You all see that I'm a powerful person here. Hamagid lochem mipi ki ani achichem. You see that the one who's speaking to you, meaning me, is a prominent person in Egypt. Umitzav lahorid avi elai l'chalkalo. And I'm saying, bring my father and the family here because I want to provide for all of you. Imkain, tagidu la'avi es kol ha'kavod v'es kol asher risem be'einechem usma'ru lo rido elai. So therefore, don't just convey the quote of what I said to you, the 2 psukim or whatever it is. Tell him, wow, this person, we saw how he was dressed. We saw how they answered whatever he told them to do. He's a powerful person there. Explain to him that you saw with your own eyes that if I'm telling him I can take care of the family, you intuit that I can deliver. Ki advarim emes. What I'm saying is true. V'yesh bi koach la'atzilo u'lachayoso barav. I can save the family. I have the political strings to save the family. So whereas Rashi and others say that I'll prove to you that it's Yosef because I'm speaking to you in Hebrew, the Ramban says, actually, I also just want to point out, this is always a subtle thing. He says, your eyes see the mouth speaking to you. So it's a little bit, how about your ears hear the mouth speaking to you? Right? You could ask that question too. The Ramban has other points on Rashi Pshat. But according to the Ramban, what he actually means is, if you just relay the words that I said to my father, you're doing a disservice because he's not going to be sure that this is even realistic. Tell him what you saw. Tell him how you saw that I had so much authority here and so much power, and then combining that with the words that I conveyed, it all comes together and it sounds like a good plan. That's how the Ramban learns it. A very interesting pshat. Okay. He greets them all very warmly, the brothers. And now verse 16, now kind of expand the screen. Va'kol nishma beis Paro lemur. The voice was heard in the house of Paro saying, Bo ache Yosef. You know, word got out that the brothers of Yosef, the brothers of the viceroy of Egypt, have appeared. Vayitav beinei Pharaoh uveinei avodav. And it was good in the eyes of Paro and in the eyes of his servants. Okay, time to be a little bit of a cynic for a second. What does Paro really care if Yosef's brothers show up? Well, why does it say in the pasuk that it was good in the eyes of Paro and his servants? I mean, it sounds like a nice story, but does he really care? So let's see the Ramban. Ramban on pasuk Tazayin. V'tam bo ache Yosef. Ki haya Yosef magid leveis Paro ki yesh lo achim nichbadim be'eretz ha'ivrim. So first of all, it's just a little bit of an interesting thing. Yosef's brothers came implies that they were known entities. Like, oh, they've come. It's like the people that we knew about came. How did they know about Yosef's brothers? So Ramban says that Yosef used to tell Paro that he was part of this distinguished family and that he had brothers who were people of prominence elsewhere. Kigunov Gunav Misham. He was kidnapped from his land. He doesn't say his brother sold him, but he would say to Paro, yeah, I was part of a distinguished family. And unfortunately, I got kidnapped. V'ata shamu kivo ache Yosef asher Amar. Now, the brothers that he had always spoken about all these years showed up. Vayitav b'nei Pharaoh v'nei avadav, and that was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and his servants. Ki haya hadavar lahem lecherpa. It was always embarrassing for them. Sheyimshol b'hem ish nachri eved. Right? Just imagine how the Washington Post would love the story. You have 3 months of stories. Imagine if the Secretary of State, was someone who was actually sold, from a slave, sold as a slave, and nobody knew anything about his background. So the truth is, in our times, it'd be kind of a feel-good story. It'd be kind of amazing, this and that. But you could imagine how it was sort of embarrassing for the Egyptians that the second most powerful man in Egypt is some slave who showed up and nobody knows much about his family. He tells a very nice story about his family, but who knows if he's telling the truth? The Ata, Bevoi love Achim Nichbadim. Now the family presents themselves. Wow, these are obviously distinguished people. Vinoda, Kihagun Lisyatziv, Livlem Lachem. He's got Yichus. Nebuch, he's still a Jew. But other than that, he has Yichus. We had earlier in the parsha, that the negative way that last week also, the negative way they viewed the Jews. But he is at least coming from a distinguished family. So the Ramban says that's why it was good in the eyes of Paro, because it looks better for Egypt now. That's Ramban's pshat. Sforno has a very different pshat. Sforno pasuk Tazayim, Vayitav beinei Paro, shechoshav shemikan ve'elach tiashkachas Yosef al haaretz, lo kashkachas ger manhig, aval kashkachas ezrach, choshev losheves be'eretz hu v'zaro. Yosef is this total, floating person, doesn't have any family in the area. He ultimately marries in Egypt, but he's here today. Maybe he'll be going tomorrow. And maybe the financial advice he gives Egypt is maybe not completely focused. Maybe there's even other motives. Who knows? If the entire extended family moves to Egypt, then Yosef has much more of a stake in the future of Egypt. So that's why it was good for Paro. That's why it was good in Paro's eyes, because you could be more confident that the financial advice he's giving the country is solid. And now he'll put all of his heart into do well for the land and its residents. That's just an interesting pshat. Okay, now let's go to verse 27. So the brothers now go back to Israel. And they tell Yaakov the amazing thing that they found Yosef, the remarkable message. Verse 27, Vaydabrei love, is called Divrei Yosef asher diber aleichem. They told Yaakov all the words of Yosef, which he shared with them. Vayaris wagalos asher shalach Yosef lo say so. He saw the wagons. Vatchri ruach Yaakov avikem. And the spirit of Yaakov, their father, came to life. Okay, there's a very famous medrash over here cited by Rashi. I'm sure many of you know it. That the last thing they were learning together had to do with Egla Arufa, the calf that gets killed, and now he sends the Agalos, the wagons. It's sort of like a pun, and that's why Yaakov knew it really was Yosef. That's a very famous medrash. But just to think about this for a moment, it says they told him all the words of Yosef. All the words of Yosef? Did they tell him what Yosef said to them about not worrying about not selling him? So this is like a fascinating mystery to think about in these psukim, in this story. Did Yaakov ever know what really happened? Did they ever share with him what really happened? So there's a very interesting Ramban on that question, and you understand why it's coming in on this pasuk. And Amir Tashem, we will see that Ramban tomorrow. Just to sum up what we spoke about today, we discussed Ramban why Yosef suggests that they live in Goshen. We discussed the different opinions of Ramban and Rashi regarding what Yosef means when he's talking to brothers and says, I'll prove to you that it's me. You see the mouth that's speaking what that means exactly. And we discussed Ramban and the Sforno with why Paro and his men were pleased when Yosef's brothers came.